Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, Skill Up with Key Scrum Master Capabilities. We are so excited that you've chosen to join us today. While we are waiting for a few more people to drop in, I see that people have already been sharing where they're joining from in the attendee chat. We would love to see more of where you're all joining from. We'll highlight that on your screen in case you haven't found it yet. Be sure to drop it in. We're so excited. I've seen some San Antonio. I think I just saw Brazil. I know our host, Evan, is joining us all the way from Australia. Are you back in Australia right now?
Australia, yep. Melbourne, Australia.
I didn't know if you were still traveling. I realized I just assumed you were in Australia right now. We've got Germany.
I'm back home.
South Africa. Oh my gosh, I love seeing just how global of an audience we have every time we have these webinars. It's so amazing to see, and it's really just a great reminder of how truly global the Agile community is. All right, so I think people are still coming in, but we are good to get started. So hello, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Molly Lord, and I am a member of the staff at Scrum Alliance, and I am so excited to moderate today's webinar. So for those of you who aren't sure who Scrum Alliance is, or maybe you have one of our certifications and you got it through a trainer, but you're not quite sure how it connects to Scrum Alliance is the first of our kind, not-for-profit, serving a global community of professionals. We partner with world-class trainers provide in-demand professional certifications ranging from our certified Scrum Master to certified product owner to our newer skills-based certifications such as the Certified Agile Leader or Certified Agile Facilitator. We were established in 2001, shortly after the signing of the Agile Manifesto. And since that time, we have issued over 1,876,000 certifications worldwide. And our mission is to advance real-world agility by equipping and inspiring the change maker in everyone. So for those of you who are members or have a certification, or if you're looking to get a Scrum Alliance certification, you get some really cool benefits as a Scrum Alliance member. You get access to our Scrum Alliance Learning Journey courses and all of our resource library content to help you wherever you're at on your Agile journey. You get connected to the Scrum Alliance global community through webinars like this. And you also get discounts to our regional and global Scrum gatherings. Our next one coming up is in May in Munich, Germany. So throw it on your calendar. It's the 5th through the 7th, I believe. And it is shaping up to be an incredible event already. You'll also get access to tools like the Retrium Retrospective tool, as well as the Comparative Agility tool. So before we dive into today's presentation, I just wanted to give you a quick tour of the webinar console that you are experiencing right now. So throughout the presentation, if you have questions that come up for Evan or technical questions, please drop them in the Q&A box that's going to be on the bottom left-hand side of your screen. If you haven't had a chance to download the report or our product owner skills report, or even the report that inspired it all, the skills in the New World of Work report, you can find links to those in our related content section in the middle of your page. I encourage you, if you don't have, especially the Scrum Master Skills Report handy, please, please, please open it up so that you can follow along as Evan gives us a deep dive into it. Most of you have already found it, but we have the attendee chat where you can connect with your fellow attendees, talk to them about what's going on, and just use it at your leisure. And then finally, we have a handy reactions tool where you can let us know how the webinar is going, if there are aha moments, if there are things you like, things that frustrate you, any emotion you have that you can react with. We would love to see your reactions throughout the event. Just a note, this webinar is being recorded, and you will receive a link to the on-demand recording straight to your inbox tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that. You will also receive a link to claim your Scrum Education Unit if you are a Scrum Alliance member and are working on building up your SEUs for renewal. So without further ado, I am so excited to hand it over to Evan Laybourne, who is a wonderful partner from the Business Agility Institute, who really has led the research and led the way on these skills reports. So Evan, without further ado.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Molly. Good morning for everyone. It's morning for me here in Australia. I am speaking from 6 o'clock in the morning from Melbourne, Australia, land of fantastic coffee, but terrible weather. For the next hour, we're going to be exploring the capabilities and the skills that we are discovering, or we have discovered, that are in demand right now. And this is based on a series of studies that the Scrum Alliance and the Business Agility Institute have been collaborating on, where we have surveyed and interviewed thousands of individuals, surveyed thousands, interviewed hundreds of individuals to learn what is it that companies are hiring for right now. And we're gonna have a bit of fun. Please, if you have any questions, throw them into the Q&A, and we will have plenty of time at the end to cover off all of those. There we go. So, like I mentioned, I am currently based in Melbourne, Australia. Now, currently I am the head of thought leadership and advocacy for the Business Agility Institute, but I started my career, of all things, dressing up in a koala suit and harassing tourists for donations for the Wilderness Society in Australia. I have had, and I calculated this about a year ago, 4 separate careers through my life. Not jobs, I've had a lot more than 4 jobs, but I've had 4 separate careers. And there was an interesting study by, I think it was the OECD, that said in the next generation, Gen Z towards Gen Alpha, are going to have upwards of 7 careers through their working life. Now, I want you to take a moment and think about your working experience and the jobs and the careers that you've had. And I want you to think about it not from the perspective of the job title, but from the perspective of the skills. What skills are you bringing to your current role, whether you are a Scrum Master or a trainer or anything? Right? What skills are you bringing to your role from previous careers, previous lives that you've lived, previous experiences that you've had? Because that is the future of work. That is the future of learning, and it is the future job that you're going to be having. Organizations are looking more and more not as the specialist focused skill, but they are looking more to the broader holistic skill set that you bring from a lifetime of experience. And for me, whether that's dressing up in a koala suit, whether that is running systems administration, whether that's working in a library, all of these skills come together to form the capabilities that I bring into, well, my current role and every role that I have from there on. Now, there is a link in your in the webinar platform, but if you haven't, I would encourage you to have a look and download this report. It is absolutely the reason we're talking today. The question that we were trying to address: what are the key functional and human skills needed for Scrum Masters today? Now, this study is a supplemental report from the Skills in the New World of Work report that was published last year. And if you haven't read that report, I would encourage you also to grab that report and have a look at it. In that report from, it was October last year, right, we were looking at a very broad range of roles, a broad range of skills to understand what hiring managers, what companies were recruiting for. This report goes a step deeper, and specifically we wanted to understand, for those companies, for those hiring managers who are recruiting Scrum Masters, what are they hiring for? What are they looking for when they go, we're going to select you? You are the right candidate. You're the right person for our organization. What makes you the right candidate and somebody else? Well, they don't get the job. They'll get the next job. They'll get another job with another organization. But what is it that distinguishes someone who the companies want? We also wanted to make sure that this report was geared not just towards understanding what companies are hiring for, but also to help you, if you are a Scrum Master, to understand the skills that you need to develop further your career in the Scrum Master ecosystem. And I'll talk about that in a moment, because there is a very wide variety of definitions about what an organization says is it says what a Scrum Master is. Now, obviously, the Scrum Alliance defines, here's the Scrum Master, but organizations have a much broader set of definitions than the official one. Now, let's actually go into it. Let me start with the first, how shall we say, the first challenge that emerged immediately when we started this research. And we're calling this the dichotomy of demand. Now, broadly speaking, when we look at the global industry, right? Well, actually, no, let me take a step back even further. When we look at the global economy, the broad market, nothing to do with agile, nothing to do with Scrum, nothing to do with Scrum mastery. But broadly speaking, the economy globally right now is weak. Right? What does that mean? It means that the number of roles available are lower than the number of people looking for roles. That is true, broadly speaking, across most industries and across most geographies. But it's not that weak. There are still roles, companies are still hiring, there is still a lot of movement. Right? Now let's go into the agile industry. Let's look at the demand for agile roles. Now, we did see in the Skills in the New World of Work report that demand for specialist agile roles, like, for example, agile coaches, was down, and actually down quite a lot. But the good news, and the relevant to this, the demand for Scrum Masters, whilst it was down, wasn't down that much. Broadly speaking, companies are still recruiting Scrum Masters. And the drop in demand for Scrum Masters is very close to the drop in demand for every role. So it's driven more by the economy than anything else. It is down a little bit more than that, but that's just the natural ebbs and flows. So we're in a situation where there is a larger supply of Scrum Masters in the market than there are roles. And companies are getting, on average, 182 applications per job opening. One company that we interviewed, one hiring manager, said that they had 1,265 applicants for one role. That is huge. But the same companies at the same time were telling us that it was very challenging to fill these roles. 55% said it was very, very challenging to find the right candidates to fill the roles that they were looking for. Almost 90% said it was difficult or challenging. Only 9%. Right? 9% of organizations said, with all of these Scrum Masters in the market, it's very easy for us to find a Scrum Master. Very easy for us to recruit. So this dichotomy of there is a lot of there are a lot of Scrum Masters in the market, but it's hard to fill. What is causing that? And so we had to go a little bit deeper to understand. And broadly speaking, the shift comes in, and the thinking that I want you to take away is the skills of the Scrum Master are evolving. Or more accurately, the skills that companies expect from Scrum Masters is evolving. Scrum Masters are expected to be more strategic. They are expected to take on a wider range of responsibilities. And I'll talk a little bit deeper around what those skills are in a moment. But broadly speaking, if for those of you who have seen the previous Skills in the New World of Work report, you would remember that we spoke about pie-shaped skills, the shift from T-shaped skills, which is your old an individual with a broad set of general skills and one deep area of expertise. I want you to think about the letter pi. And so many leaders, companies, hiring managers are now looking for that broad set of capabilities and skills, but 2 or more functional areas of expertise. They're looking for someone with Scrum Master skills and technical skills, or and data skills, or and leadership skills, or and coaching skills. And it's that combination of skills alongside Scrum Mastery that makes it difficult for a company to find the right candidate, despite hundreds, if not thousands, of applications per role. And that is the difference in your careers. Right? For those of you who are Scrum Masters, my question at the beginning around what skills do you bring from your previous careers? What do you bring into your current job? And that is what makes the difference between someone who gets the job, who is the right candidate for that organization, and someone who is not. The complexity here is that the combination of ands is very unique. There is a large combination of ands. Right? They need the Scrum Master responsibilities. That's the common thread. That's that common deep functional area of expertise. But the ands is unique to each organization. And your challenge as a candidate, if you are a candidate, if you are a Scrum Master, your challenge is to be able to talk to your skills, your broad range of skills that you've developed over a lifetime, and how they map to those requirements, those needs that those organizations have. And if you find that you are lacking some of these complementary skills, then that is a role for education and experience where you need to start learning and developing some of these additional complementary skills. I'll talk about what those are in a moment. But first, I'm going to talk a little bit around some of the variations and the trends that we've seen. So we looked at, we interviewed hiring managers from all around the world. We surveyed Scrum Masters and hiring managers from multiple industries, multiple geographies. Broadly speaking, in North America and South America, financial services and technology organizations are still the largest recruiter of Scrum Masters. In South America, Latin America, it is growing and there is an increasing demand. So the importance of speaking Portuguese or Spanish cannot be overlooked here. In these regions, companies in the United States, when they're recruiting for a Scrum Master, are looking for strategy and change management skills as a complementary skill sets. In Latin and South America, it's facilitation and communication skills. It's those human skills, what you might call soft skills, that are most in demand. When we look at Western Europe, the United Kingdom, demand is a little bit flat in the UK. There is still some demand in technology and financial services, but we're not seeing huge growth. We're not seeing a lot of new roles for Scrum Masters opening up. In Western Europe, we are seeing growth, but mostly in the automotive, the manufacturing, and the telecommunications industries, industries that have heavy capital investment. And just more broadly, I should also comment that those industries, what we would class as heavy industry, across the world, have the fastest growing demand for agility. Not just Scrum Masters, this is looking specifically at Scrum Masters, but agile coaching and agile transformations. It is these automotive, manufacturing, heavy capital organizations that are really investing heavily in agile now. Across India, when we move towards the east, across India and the Indian subcontinent, technology and tech services companies are the strongest, or have the strongest demand and growing demand for Scrum Masters. And given the kind of work they're doing, it's not that surprising that the complementary skills that they're looking for are technical and sort of team leadership kind of skills. In Australia, telecommunications and finance are the strongest growing sectors. Let me correct myself there. Demand for Scrum Mastery in general across Australia is down. It's one of the few regions where the UK is flat, Australia is actually down. Roles that people are being laid off, unfortunately. But the areas where there is still demand, there is still some growth, is around telecommunications and finance. And across Australia, what companies are really looking for, less around the skills, but there is more of a focus on cultural fit and practical experience. Now, interestingly, I should also note practical experience is in demand pretty much across the board, and we'll talk about one of those challenges. When we look at industries, technology companies and tech services companies who are hiring Scrum Masters are emphasizing domain-specific or technology-specific knowledge. So if it is a data management company, then they're looking for Scrum Masters with data skills. If it is a software as a service company, then they're looking for Scrum Masters with skills in the languages and the platforms that they're using. Tech companies are getting very specific around, we're looking for technical Scrum Masters. We're not looking for specialist, dedicated Scrum Masters who have that singular, deep expertise in Scrum Mastery. They want that and that domain-specific or that technology-specific knowledge. In that manufacturing, in that production environment, those industries, perhaps not that surprising, they are looking for Scrum Masters with experience and skills in lean and supply chain and the complementary skill sets that, have defined the manufacturing industry since certainly about the 80s or the 70s and the 80s with lean manufacturing. Both healthcare and financial services are emphasize or prioritize candidates with knowledge of the regulatory environment that they operate within, the healthcare regulations or the financial services regulations. So they are very much looking for people who have experience in those industries. That's not to say that if you don't have healthcare experience, they won't hire you as a Scrum Master. But someone with healthcare experience is definitely going to be a stronger candidate than someone who's not. With financial services, alongside the financial services regulations, is also a growing demand in understanding data, like how to use data, data-driven decisions, data management. That is very much a strong complementary skill set that has emerged across financial services. I wanted to give this broadly as a shape. So you understood what different organizations in different areas of the world and different industries were looking for. And I know from looking at the chat that you are representing all over the world. And this is very much the kind of space that's, and the kind of skills that you need to be mindful of. So let's go back. I mentioned a moment ago that I was going to talk about what those top complementary skills were. And here they are. So this is very much looking across all of those industries, all of those interviews that we did, the surveys that we did, to draw upon what are the top human and what are the top functional skills that organizations are seeking. Now, remembering that this was a study on the role of Scrum Master, it is no surprise that 100% of organizations that took part were looking for Scrum Master skills. That should be of no surprise to anyone. We would also class in here the skill, what we call agile acumen, which is the ability to work with agility. And this is an important one to note, because for those of you who aren't Scrum Masters, or for those of you who are Scrum Masters but looking to move into another role, what is important to understand is that organizations are expecting agile acumen in almost every role that they're recruiting for, whether it's a Scrum Master, whether it's a product owner, or whether it's an accountant or a software developer or a marketer. The expectation is that their candidates, the people who are being given the jobs, have agile acumen. They can work with agility in an agile way, using all of the tools and ideas from agile. I don't just mean Scrum, I'm talking more broadly than this, but this is a common expectation. When we look at the human skills, those soft skills in the purple, communication, mindset, influence come up as very highly skills that are highly in demand. So if, as a Scrum Master or as a hiring manager, someone who is recruiting for Scrum Masters, they are going to explicitly look for your communication, your mindset behaviors. So mindset behaviors are things like adaptability. Let me just bring up my notes here, just make sure I get this one right, because that's important. So it's things like adaptability, confidence, curiosity, a learning mindset. Right? This is that 40% mindset behaviors. That's what I'm talking about. And I will note, by the way, that when we do the studies, we have skills and sub-skills. The skill, mindset behavior, the sub-skills within this, adaptability makes up the vast majority. So the companies they want people who can be adaptable. It is such and this is a new piece of research. We don't have data predating the pandemic, but anecdotally, this appears to be something that is relatively new. Right? This expectation or this demand for adaptability when recruiting. It appears to be something that has come post-pandemic, but that's anecdotal rather than necessarily data-driven. But communication skills, there's not much of a surprise there. I think every skill study done by the OECD or the World Economic Forum has put communication in the top 10, if not the top 3, if not the top skill that companies are looking for. Now, we all should know what the role of a Scrum Master is, so it's not that surprising that influence and leadership skills do emerge as strong complementary skill sets. And the good thing here is that when we think about what the experience of a Scrum Master and the role of a Scrum Master, sometimes these complementary skills are more a matter of highlighting something that you already have than it is developing an additional skill set. Though in other cases, it is about developing additional skills. But it's the functional skills that I think a lot of you are mostly interested in. Now, technical skills are by and large the most common and most in-demand skill set that companies, or complementary skill set, I should say, that companies want. 49% of organizations who are recruiting Scrum Masters are explicitly requesting that their Scrum Masters have deep technical knowledge. They're looking for someone who can be hands-on. They're no longer looking for that dedicated specialist Scrum Master who can help facilitate the team. They're looking for a Scrum Master who can get deep. They can help with code reviews. They can coach the team on technical excellence and do things like quality checks. Right? And we'll talk a little bit about the differing roles of a Scrum Master shortly, but there are some nuances here as well. Now, coaching and facilitation is also a set of skills that organizations are actively seeking. Now, one of the interesting things that we've seen as a trend is that Agile coach as a job title has dropped in demand quite significantly, actually, in a lot of regions and a lot of organizations. But the need for coaching is still there. The expectation that I spoke about Agile acumen as an expectation, and that is true. Companies expect people to work with agility, but they're less and less willing to pay for a dedicated Agile coach to develop Agile acumen across the organization. And with the loss of Agile coaches, but the retention of that demand, it is the Scrum Masters who are very much picking up the slack. Scrum Masters in organizations are being, and again, we're talking an average here, that there's a wide variety, but in a lot of organizations, Scrum Masters are expected to take on many of the responsibilities that an Agile coach used to have. Now, those are the top two functional skill sets that are complementary. You have others, tools and software. Right? A Scrum Master has to be able to set up Jira or use whatever tooling and platform that the organization has. Business acumen, it's not a huge one, but organizations are very, very, they're wanting Scrum Masters who understand the context of the business, the domain of the business. You got product, project management. There's a wide variety of other skills that make a Scrum Master effective and stand out in when being recruited over that pure Scrum Mastery. And obviously, they all want the Scrum Mastery, but it's the and that they're looking for. Now, I want to take a moment and just highlight one thing, which is the concept of a senior Scrum Master. Now, senior Scrum Masters, this is important because a lot of organizations have created a career path for their Scrum Masters. And sometimes there's more than one, there's more than two levels. But broadly speaking, senior Scrum Masters from a responsibility are given more politically sensitive or technically complex teams or projects or situations. And they're expected to have the soft skills, the human skills, the communication, the influence, the leadership necessary to handle those. And so those human skills become more important in senior Scrum Masters than junior Scrum Masters. From a functional skill set standpoint, the coaching and facilitation skills are needed 2.8 times more than with a junior Scrum Master or I don't want to say, that's not fair to say junior Scrum Master, let's just say a non-senior Scrum Master, a Scrum Master as it will. So there are organizations where, in fact, in many organizations, the skills required for a senior Scrum Master are indistinguishable from the skills required for an Agile coach. And this sometimes a little bit goes to the distinction between as Agile coaches get pulled out of the organizations, Scrum Masters, senior Scrum Masters, are definitely more expected to pick into a step into this. But this merge of responsibilities has been going on forever. This isn't a new thing, and it very much just comes from the role of Scrum Master has a wide variety of expectations and responsibilities across different organizations. So think of this as like a rose by any other name. So a Scrum Master in some organizations is seen as and treated as an agile coach. In some organizations, they're transformation leaders. In other organizations, they're managers, right? They actually have line management responsibility. Other organizations, they've just taken their project managers and renamed them Scrum Masters. Or they've brought in Scrum Masters and the role has evolved to become a glorified project manager. In other organizations, a Scrum Master is a technical lead or treated as a technical lead. Right? They are responsible for the quality and the code review, making sure that the technology, the platform is good. In other organizations, a Scrum Master is glorified project administration. Right? Their job is to make the tea and to book the room for the stand-up, or the retrospective or the planning session. And in other organizations, the Scrum Master is treated as a product owner. Now, I think most of us should know that that's not a good thing. Most of us know that those roles should be kept separate. And I'm not going to go into why. We've been talking about that for 20 odd years now. But it is, however, a reality that some organizations have like conflated and brought those roles together. Right? Now, let's talk about right. Let's talk about good. Nothing here is good or bad. Other than that Scrum Master and Product Owner and Scrum Master as Project Admin Support, which I would class as not right, or I would class that as wrong, right? But most of these, it's not a matter of companies are getting it wrong. Right? It's a matter of this is what the companies need. And when we talk about organizational change and especially behavioral or human change, we often talk about meeting people where they are. And this is definitely one of those situations where we have to be meeting an organization where they are. If you are a Scrum Master, right, then when you apply for a job in an organization, you need to be keeping an eye out as to what kind of Scrum Master are they looking for. Do they want a Scrum Master with coaching skills because they've laid off all their coaches? Are they running a transformation and the Scrum Masters are picking on transformational responsibilities? Do they want deep technical expertise because they're expecting you to do code reviews, because they're expecting you to manage the technical excellence of the team alongside the Scrum or the process excellence? Do they want you to keep a RAID log and a comms plan and a Gantt chart like a project manager? You get to choose whether or not that's a role that you want to apply for. But go into that eyes wide open, the kind of role that this title, Scrum Master, is actually going to be. Most people who come out of the an organization saying that was terrible, it was a bad job, or where people are getting fired from these roles, isn't because they're bad Scrum Masters, though I suspect that's sometimes the case. More often than not, it is because the expectation, the unstated expectation of this Scrum Master role misaligned with the skill sets of the Scrum Master who was in the role. And this is complex because the companies themselves don't know any different. A company that treats a Scrum Master as a technical lead, by and large, they're not saying this is a Scrum Master, and we're adding on technical lead as a capability, or as an add-on to Scrum Master. They truly believe that when they visualize Scrum Master, they think technical lead. And because it is this, in many organizations, because it is this implicit assumption as to what a Scrum Master is, it makes it sometimes difficult for for individuals to say, yes, this is the right kind of role for me, right? Because you don't sometimes know that they're wanting a tech lead, right? They just are titling it as Scrum Master, right? Until you're in the job. And sometimes it's too late. And so this is where we as an industry have to get much better at clarifying what exactly are the responsibilities of a Scrum Master in your organization? What do you need from me to be successful? And if you can't be successful, then there's another job for you, because like I said, there are a lot of different types of Scrum Masters out there right now. This is not a bad thing. This is an opportunity, but it is something that you have to be very, very mindful of. Now, to start to wrap this up, the career paths. So for those of you who are Scrum Masters, or those who are training Scrum Masters, or even hiring Scrum Masters, right? The most common suite of career paths, right? Scrum Masters, and this is in order. By and large, the first career path from a Scrum Master is to a leader or to a manager, right? They're looking for line management, leadership positions in an organization, usually in the product space, right? Usually as a I don't mean a product manager, I mean a manager in the product organization, but that is a common career path. From Scrum Master to Agile Coach, again, very common pathway, and many organizations already treat Scrum Masters as an Agile Coach, though I will note that I would be very mindful of the demand for coaching right now as to whether or not that is that market might be oversaturated at the moment. So if that is your career path, I would be looking at the jobs that are available in your market, in your region, with your combination of expertise to see whether or not it is saturated where you are. From Scrum Master to product management, right, or product ownership, a common path. From Scrum Master to Advanced Scrum Master, right? They want to stay as a Scrum Master, they just want to become more senior. They want to develop those Scrum Mastery skills, right, to a greater and greater degree. And now we're getting into the less common, but there is many Scrum Masters say that some Scrum Masters say that their career goals are going from Scrum Master to a project manager, or from a Scrum Master, they want to leave industry and become a consultant, a transformation consultant, or to join a consulting firm where their Scrum Mastery skills are helpful, but they're going more into management consulting and they're going more into advisory. So we have this wide range of career paths, and what I would be encouraging all of you to consider, and if we think about these pie-shaped skills, these complementary skills, I would be looking at what career path you're most interested in and what complementary skills will make you a better Scrum Master today, but also put you in line for the career path or the next job, the next career that you're looking for. And like I said, I've had 4 careers in my life, not jobs, 4 careers. And most of you are going to have, well, probably more than 4. So to sort of wrap this up, broadly speaking, there are a number of gaps that we see. Organizations look for practical experience, and sometimes they say that candidates don't have practical experience. They have knowledge, but they don't understand. But they don't have they can't show experience. They're looking for technical proficiency, those technical skills. The expectations are Scrum Masters to be hands-on. No longer is the role of a Scrum Master, and it never really should have been, to organize and facilitate the daily stand-up and the retrospective and the planning sessions, the expectation is the Scrum Master has an active role throughout a sprint, throughout an iteration. That adaptability, remember I talked about the massive demand for Scrum Master to be able to adapt to changing dynamics, changing environments, and again, anecdotally, since pandemic, that has become much, much stronger, as also much more in demand, I should say. Now, the key skills, 93% of organizations said that 93% of organizations that were looking for coaching skills said that it was very difficult, very hard to find Scrum Master candidates with coaching skills. 61% of organizations looking for technical skills with their Scrum Masters said it was difficult to find candidates with the right set of technical skills. And influence, 38% of organizations looking for Scrum Masters with strong human influence skills say that was difficult for them to find. So I highlight those as the top 3 skill sets that if this is where your interests and expertise lies, right? These are the complementary skills that will help you to stand out, because companies are struggling to find Scrum Masters with these complementary skills. Right? And you should be considering how to develop them to be more successful. Now, remember, that's the percentage of organizations who are looking for those skills. Technical skills are still the most in-demand complementary skill set, followed by coaching skills, but it's companies are finding it easier to find technical skills than they are to find coaching skills when they're looking for those things. To wrap this up, companies need pie-shaped Scrum Masters. They're looking for Scrum Masters who have a broad set of capabilities, complementary capabilities alongside Scrum Mastery. And that is this, and as Scrum Masters, you have to develop those skills. As trainers, you need to teach those skills. Right? And as hiring managers, you need to be explicit and clear about what skills you're looking for alongside Scrum Master, because that Scrum Mastery skill set is, well, it's not always what a company thinks it is. So on that, I think we have time for questions.
All right, I am back. I am here to moderate some of the lovely Q&A that people have been dropping in throughout the presentation. So we'll just go from the top down. When referring to technical skills, are you able to elaborate on what technical skills are most sought after?
So with me. Yeah. So when we look at technical skills, and I'm just going to quickly come over to this screen, bear with me. So technical skills. When we look at them, what we are finding is that software engineering skills is the largest or the most in-demand technical skill set, followed by data. And data very much like there's industry specifics there. Financial services, for financial services, data is the most common. But generally, software engineering is. It gets specific because specific companies are looking for software engineering skills in the particular platform or language and so forth. So it does shift somewhat. Cloud, DevOps. DevOps is number 3, sorry. Cloud is number 4. Artificial intelligence and machine learning is a emerging skill set under this. Now, what's interesting there is when we did this study last year, we found that AI and ML skills were primarily in demand in specialist like innovation AI labs. Right? But as we anticipated, right, as we expected to see, it has starting to become more of a general skill set. So it went from in October last year, it went from being, forgive me, I think it was like 1, 2, or 3% of organizations looking for AI skills, and again, primarily in those AI labs. Now it's much higher. I think it's about 7%, right? And it is becoming more of a, everyone needs this skill. It's not 100%. It's not everyone's looking for AI. It's still fairly specialist, but it is becoming more common than it was just 6 months ago.
No, I have seen that happen even within Scrum Alliance and learning to develop those skills. So we have some exciting things on the horizon when it comes to AI. So we have a couple questions here, and I'm going to do my best to combine them because they both touch on influence skills. So I think we'll just go with, how do you define influence skills and how do people work to develop them?
So influence skills we would classify as having, or like the sub-skills within influence: conflict resolution, interpersonal skills, motivational skills, and negotiation skills. So those are sort of like the subset when it comes to influence. Now, there are quite a lot of sort of tools and techniques to develop those. For things like negotiation, I like the Thomas Kilmann, what's Thomas Kilmann something. It's a tool that looks at the different perspectives that you and your the person you're negotiating with may have. Are you looking for win-win? Are you looking to win at all costs? Right? There's a combination. Similarly, with things like interpersonal skills and motivational skills, a lot of it comes from building or learning how to expand your sphere of influence rather than necessarily your sphere of control. And that comes in large part by building goodwill. It comes from building trust and or being trusted. I talk a lot about what I talk is like the 3 like keys for like human success, and this is an Evan thing. It's competence or skill, your ability to do work well; empathy, which is your ability to understand another person; and confidence, the ability to have confidence in, yes, I can do this. But you need all 3. Like skill and confidence without empathy is arrogance. Right? Empathy and skill without confidence is not trusted. And confidence and empathy without skill is fraud. So you kind of need all those 3. And if you can build those, you're going to expand your sphere of influence because you're confident, you have the capability, you're trusted, and you have empathy to understand the other people. If you got those 3, yeah, your influence will expand to as far and wide as you need it to.
Fantastic answer to those questions. So can you provide any insight into what the top 3 skills Scrum Masters are lacking according to your conversations with the hiring managers? Are there any that stand out?
So the complementary skills that were lacking is what I was sharing at the end. It was those coaching, technical, and influence skills. So that's what companies were saying that was hard to find when they were recruiting for Scrum Masters. If we dig a level deeper, for technical skills, data was definitely the sub-skill that was was hardest to find under those technical skills. Under influence, it was actually influence was sort of like conflict resolution, motivation. It was fairly, all of the sub-skills sort of were about equally hard to find. And sort of underneath coaching, just honestly, just coaching skills. Facilitation, mentorship seem to be okay. When we look outside those 3, leadership skills came up as hard to find or lacking in a lot of Scrum Masters, and specifically the ability to build and lead teams. So, which seems sort of a little bit contradictory, but many Scrum Masters they're good at facilitating teams. They're good at guiding and like that form of leadership. But the managing people side of team leadership was lacking in a number of Scrum Masters.
It's really interesting. We have a question, because we touched a bit on how different companies have different ideas of what Scrum Masters should do, what the role encompasses. So someone asked, how can we effectively use Scrum Master skills as project managers in a highly waterfall/predictive environment?
Oh, that is a brilliant question. So Scrum Master skill... let me go back, sorry. So, we need to start thinking of, so there's a concept called a career mosaic or a portfolio career, which takes the position that career paths as that linear, we were this, now we're doing this, now we're doing that. Career paths are too linear. Like, that's not in reality how our lives work. And if you look back at your own career, I'm guessing it's not a linear pathway. The idea of a career mosaic or a portfolio career is one where you have a combination of skills and a combination of experiences which enable you to take on a combination of opportunities. Now, for those of you who are at the end of your career, you're near retirement, then a portfolio career or a career mosaic might explicitly look like you're on a couple of board positions, you do some training, you do some short form advisory or consulting. You have a mosaic of jobs, work to do. Earlier in your career, where it's like, I have a job, start to think of it as, I don't have a job title. What I have is a set of expectations, a set of responsibilities that require a combination of skills that go beyond, right, what that job title is. And if you think of it in terms of that combination, then you could be working as a project manager in a highly waterfall environment. And what you bring to that role is agile acumen. What you bring to that role is facilitation skills, coaching skills, leadership skills, influence skills, adaptability. What you bring to that role, you bring agility with you everywhere that you go. Now, whether or not the organization allows you to flex or express those other skills, that's a different thing. And at some point, there's the old saying, change your company or change your company. And so if you cannot express the skills that you truly want to express, well, it's time to look for another job.
All right, so it looks like we have about 3 minutes left. So I'm trying to choose one that I think we can really hit in that short time slot. Lots of great questions. So you touched on it a little bit. I don't know if you can expand a little, but what would you say the difference is between senior Scrum Masters and a Scrum Master or a junior Scrum Master? Is there anything you can really give as a concrete separator between, or is it really subjective and kind of on a spectrum almost?
It is very subjective. So in some organizations, when we interviewed hiring managers, we were on a Zoom call, we were speaking to hiring managers and trying to understand. And in some organizations, what they described as a senior Scrum Master, another organization said, well, that's a Scrum Master. There's nothing senior about it. In other organizations, they would describe a senior Scrum Master, and for another organization, it's like, well, that's an Agile coach. So and this goes a little bit to the whole a rose by any other name. It's how a Scrum Master is seen in an organization is hugely different, I suppose. And that goes more so for senior Scrum Masters than just the role of a Scrum Master. And partly because like what is senior depends on what the organization looks for and what they expect. I would say that tech companies, especially in part, I think, and again, this is just Evan's opinion here, but because tech companies have been doing Scrum for a lot longer than, say, financial services, they tend to have a more mature view of a senior Scrum Master. But yeah, it has, I'm afraid I can't be that much more specific because it is so personal. It is so unique to each organization.
All right. Well, I mean, I think that even that answer helps clarify a little bit and to help create a better understanding of what companies are looking at and saying. So with that, we are going to wrap up our Q&A section. Evan, thank you so much for your time and your expertise today that you so willingly and readily share with our amazing Agile and Scrum community across the globe. And a huge thank you to everybody who joined us today for this webinar. It is always great to have you. I love getting to moderate these Q&As because they are questions that I would have never even thought of, and they pop up and they continually make me think, and I'm always so excited to hear the answers. So for Scrum Alliance members, in the follow-up email tomorrow with the link to the on-demand recording, you will also receive a link to claim your Scrum education unit for attending this webinar. And for everybody else, you will still receive a link to the on-demand recording tomorrow. I will connect with Evan afterwards as well to see if we can get a couple more of these amazing questions answered for you, and we'll get those out to you. If you are available at the same time next week, we are doing a deep dive into the product owner skills report. So please join us for that. It should be another great look at, trends and skills that are needed in the job market. And with that, I think we are good to sign off for today. So again, thank you, Evan, and thank you to everybody for joining us. Hopefully we will see you next week.